10 years.
I love you.
I'm a tool. I'm a tool. I'm a tool, an unbelievably annoying tool.
10 years.
I'm a tool. I'm a tool. I'm a tool.
No. We ain't gonna cop out like that. But I'll admit, I didn't have anything big planned for the 10th anniversary, or even another Redux at the ready, or a 5-hour documentary on Gamergate. No, I wanted to do something a bit simpler. Take this opportunity to truly reflect on this show and its origins, as well as discuss why I'm so attracted to game controversies. You'd think that would be an easy question for me to answer, but I wasn't able to find one for the longest time. Cause here's a little fact for any newer viewers who don't know their TheCrazyEven lore all that well. I was not intending for controversy to ever become the core of this channel. For the longest time, I had considered it a side project to what my real content was gonna be, what would draw in the real viewers and the real money. And you can watch the 10-year anniversary video for the channel itself if you want more details on that, cause here, we're focusing only on controversy. Dun dun dun! For the last time, no, this isn't a Halloween episode. And in addition to answering why I find this stuff so fascinating, you'll also learn a little bit about my process, how the show has evolved over these 10 years, and ultimately, why I have been doing this for so long. I hope you'll find this interesting in lieu of a proper episode. But we also just had one a week ago, so if you're not interested, just go and watch that one again and pretend it's the real episode 75. In the meantime, let's get started with our analysis here, and we can start by asking a simple question. What makes for an interesting controversy? Actually, let's start by asking something even simpler than that. What is a controversy? Referencing multiple sources, including a physical one, controversy is generally defined as a discussion, dispute, or disagreement signified by opposing views. Which makes one wonder, why not just call it a disagreement, or a debate, or a conflict and just be done with it? But that begs another question. Where exactly is the term used, and how does it differ from just a mere conflict? Well, anytime I see controversy or even controversial mentioned in writing or conversation, it's usually regarding one particular subject that's usually large enough to gather a significant amount of attention. This could range from an ongoing war, to a book banning, or to a problematic character from a TV show, to a politician's statements or actions, to a celebrity's statements or actions, to fucking lemonade, to something countrywide, to something statewide, to something local in your own area. Whatever the case may be, the controversy that surrounds these events is usually significant enough to those involved, and usually gets very public. Public is a big key word here, but big is another one. Like, say you get into an argument with a friend or a significant other or a family member over something. You can't really call that a controversy, unless a civil suit of some kind occurs that affects the whole family, or maybe even the whole neighborhood, or the whole city, or you take over the mic at the next State of the Union address to vent about it. And something like that, silly as it may be, could be a big controversy. And big gets documented. Big gets eyes. Big gets discussed. Because a big appeal of controversy is the drama that goes into it. And the more eyes there are witnessing the events related to it unfold, the bigger and more prolonged the controversy can get. Going by the definitions and that description, one could easily view this as inherently negative, but that's not necessarily the case. Yes, viewpoints on the controversy may differ, and that can result in arguments and maybe even negative consequences, but not all controversies are detrimental or unhelpful. Sometimes they're absolutely necessary, and can have a very positive effect in the future. No matter how necessary or needed a controversy is, though, they can provide some interesting perspectives, context, nuance, and discussion if one engages with them. And that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years, engaging in those perspectives, that context, those nuances, and these discussions from the beginning to the end. That's what makes them so interesting to me and others, but well, for something a bit less generalized, in my view, what makes controversy so interesting is that they tell an interesting story. The art we dabble in around these parts is heavily involved storytelling. And I mean that with the utmost sincerity and affection. I love stories. Y'all out there love stories too, and the whole world loves stories. And that leads us into the next question. Why focus on video games? Well, for once that is simple. Games are my favorite thing in the whole world. I grew up with them, I've made most of my friends through them, I got my degree in game design. It's what I'm most comfortable with. But game controversy actually came a bit later. As a kid, I knew plenty about the mature games that you're not supposed to be playing, your Mortal Kombats, your GTAs, and having quite the fascination with them and other games in that area, but I never quite grasped their controversial nature or the very idea of game controversy until right around the beginning of 2014 during my senior year of high school. That was around the time I was really interested in Night Trap and its history, how it had been viewed as so violent and cruel to women, and how it contributed to the creation of the ESRB, and how the gameplay clearly showed that the whole thing was a massive overreaction. Seeing this was oh so very intriguing, and I had only one question after. What other incidents like this were there? And that led to me discovering the ever-growing and ever-useful Wikipedia page, the list of controversial video games. As you can see, even during 2014, pre-Gamergate, this page had a bevy of games and incidents all neatly organized and cataloged for my own personal viewing. And after seeing this, as well as Angry Joe's Biggest Game Controversies of 2013 video, I had but one question. Has anyone done a series here that solely focused on this? There probably had been, and there certainly are now, but my high school self didn't give a shit because they want to start talking about video game controversies in video form. And after they decided on that, came the biggest question of all. What controversy should we start with? In other words, how do I choose my topic? What's my selection process? Well, I already had a whole list of them at my disposal, so naturally, the majority of the topics for those first rounds of episodes were from here. But as the years went on and the show evolved, I found that the selection process gets much harder. I still do rely on that Wikipedia page, the last episode's topic came from it, but I also rely on your standard news sites, your social media, your general word of mouth, your grapevines, and of course, searching game controversy on Google if I'm really desperate. And that's totally viable because that's how I found Panera Bread. But I digress. My criteria for choosing the topics in question isn't super involved either, but I do have my preferences and non-preferences. The ones I tend to look for are singular games or series that caused a controversy of some kind, a game developer or publisher with some controversy or long history of controversies attached to them, and on occasion, a specific person within the industry that has this kind of notoriety. Note that I said in the industry, a direct connection to that environment. This excludes gaming YouTubers, as while there's a giant pool of information that I could pull from, and it seems very tempting in order to get a quick burst in views, that shit don't normally got nothing to do with no games and is a surefire way to pure misery. This also normally excludes video game fan bases and fan-based controversies. Maybe I'll make fun of them here and there, but doing a deep dive? Again, pure misery. As for the actual content of the controversies, I'm pretty much game for anything. You name it, however light or extreme it is, and I'll at least look at it. But if there's not that interesting a story behind the controversy or the controversial element, or at least a good point to make from it, then it usually won't get a full episode. And conversely, if there's way too much going on with the controversy, I'm very less likely to do one on that either. I'm still reeling from The Last of Us Martha is Dead double whammy. Those two videos' lengths combined was longer than the entirety of the first season. Let's forget about 31 Days of Controversy for now. To this end, I also consider audience suggestions and have a stern eye on what videos get the most views more than other videos, but those are minimal factors into the final decision. Again, not adverse to covering more stuff like this, but, well, some of the folks these particular games or topics attract aren't exactly who I would like to attract. Regardless, this approach has allowed, in my view, a good variety of new and old controversies and stories to talk about and poke fun at. Maybe I don't cover as many modern or current controversies by themselves as I could, but, well, that's why I started the yearly Biggest Controversies I Missed videos, so I could at least make some comment on those current controversies here in some manner. But if that series has taught me anything, though, it's that I'm finding less and less things to say about certain topics beyond "this sucks," or "this was stupid," or "I agree, let's have sex." And sometimes the stories those controversies tell aren't even complete by year's end. How exactly can I cover a controversy that's not fully complete? How inconsiderate of them. But now that we're in this territory, we may as well talk about the toughest part of the controversy process. How do we cover it? This is another one of those things that's become a lot more difficult over time, even though the format of the show itself hasn't changed a whole lot. I lay out some backstory, I lay out the controversy, discuss what happened, how whoever was involved became involved and responded, and most importantly, what impact the controversy may have had and any possible lessons that could be learned from it. When I was starting out, though, while I did try to consider the time it took place in and the positions involved, I was definitely more focused on whether or not the controversy was worth it. And I phrase it this way because I originally envisioned these controversies as if they were a fight to the death between multiple parties that resulted in all sorts of horrific destruction, countless lives lost, and the remaining survivors scarred by these incidents for life. Was all the trouble that Night Trap caused worth it? Was all the trouble that Mortal Kombat caused worth it? Or Postal? Or even something slight as God of War 2? How fucking disgusting that was. Was it all worth it? And once I determined this, I'd assign the controversy a rating on a scale of 1 to 10. As you can tell, I took these ratings very, very seriously, and I will not fight with anyone on any of them, thank you very much. But towards the end of the second season, I had fully recognized that the stories these controversies were telling was far more interesting than whether or not it was worth it. That may still be part of the conclusions we arrive at in examining controversies anyway, but, well, to be more blunt, even after bringing it back during the Rockstar saga for fun, and being slightly influenced from my own distaste of numbered or graded ratings, I'm confident in saying rating a controversy just doesn't make any sense. Beyond that, and the editing styles as well as the editing programs that have changed over time, the silly little skits or set pieces that were fun to write and edit, but I'm pretty much done with those now, fingers crossed, knock on wood, and more recently, learning that short-form content is absolutely not compatible with this show's format. It was also during that second season that I actually started playing the games I brought up on the show. I didn't beforehand because I was a stupid kid who didn't have the methods for capturing game footage onto their parents' PC, but if you want to go deep into some controversial games, playing them is crucial in establishing context. Was the AO rating for Hatred justified? Did the Kickstarter troubles of Mighty No. 9 and Yooka-Laylee or Agony upend their respective qualities? And was reviewing Revolution 60 by itself and not even mentioning Brianna Wu at all a good idea? Etc, etc, etc. Obviously, not every game needed to be played to get that context, and not every game needed to get a full review alongside the controversy, but wherever necessary and whenever possible, I will do my due diligence. Finding sources for controversies is where things get more complicated. Call me a basic bitch, but Wikipedia does provide a good starting point for a lot of these controversies, and searching the internet for any controversies out there regarding the topic, even for older controversies, is a great help in expanding the story and making sure that I've got the right information. From time to time, I do skim a physical book or two for additional sources, watch some other people's analysis to corroborate those sources, and on occasion, reach out to the people involved. The people at Running with Scissors, Eric Schweitzer, Dennis Harper, that one guy on Twitter who covered the Metabot's trademark shit. All really helpful in getting those specific details expanded on, or even getting ones that hadn't been established in written form. The biggest change that's happened here as of recent, and one I'm sure you've noticed, is proper citation of those sources. Not to say I haven't been citing my sources until now, but a certain video from a few months ago made me realize that it's probably a good idea to properly list those sources in case the audience wants to check them out, beyond just sticking in a mere article or two in the description. But even after all this time, and after organizing all this material, adding in the jokes, doing the voiceover, editing the video, I do try my damnedest to make sure I've got everything as right as I can possibly get. Sometimes that's not possible, and sometimes I just don't dig as deep as I could have, or sometimes I'm not even looking in the right place. But even after all this time, I still do have the capacity to get this stuff horribly wrong. Ideally, that's just a one-off case from here on out, but we are only human, and this means there's still a lot of room to grow. Which brings us to the final question I've posed for this video. Why do I keep doing this? Now, I'm not asking this in a cynical manner. I'm happy with anyone watching. Well, almost anyone watching. But I do have some doubts. These doubts are solely rooted in how a lot of internet-based folk, YouTube or otherwise, some whose work I had looked up to for so long, some whom I have become peers with, have quit, or just stopped making YouTube stuff or internet stuff entirely. They have their reasons. I'm grateful for the entertainment and or friendship they have provided, and I hope that they're doing well with whatever they're doing now. But I see this and I wonder, am I gonna stop with this eventually? Like some really, really cynical bastard could just look at this and ask what the point of it all was. And after framing them for the microphone incident and getting them trapped in jail for 100 years, the real cynical part of me may concede that they may have somewhat of a point. So why do I keep doing this? You know, there's a really good Luke Combs song by that very same name about how even if he weren't making music for a living, he'd still be making music because that's what he loves to do. So even considering all of the above, the bottom line is whether or not I like doing this. And I very much do. I've put a lot of work into these videos and building up this channel wherever and whenever possible over this past decade. And yes, that work is time-consuming, sometimes exhausting, sometimes miserable. But I'm content with what I have and what I do here. I got that game design degree because I wanted to go into game design, get into this industry. But well, sometimes life just throws you for a loop, and I've found major interest in just talking about the industry, talking about video game controversies, telling these very good stories. And there are still a lot of good stories waiting to be told, a lot of good stories that are waiting to happen, and maybe even more people to tell them to here on out. So whatever happens from henceforth, let me finish this all by offering my sincere gratitude to anyone who's been watching my stuff for however long, and I hope you'll keep watching whatever comes in the future. Happy 10 years of controversy, folks. And as always, I'll see you later.